as we all know. What stops armed bad guys is armed good guys.
As the age-old saying goes, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Have you ever heard that? No, you've never heard that.
Oh, we have heard that tired and trite Republican talking point over and over, and it ain't true. Uvalde is just the latest example. The Uvalde police, a.k.a. the good guys, had guns. And yet, an 18-year-old with an AR-15 allegedly killed 19 children and 2 adults. So spare us the tired rhetoric. What we need are common sense gun safety laws folks want. For instance, a majority of Americans support raising the legal age to buy a gun, but only 6 states have increased the minimum age to purchase a long gun to 21. Joining me now, Congressman David Cicilline of Rhode Island. He's the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee Chair. Also, Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow and Matthew Dowd, MSNBC political contributor and analyst, founder of Country Over Party, and author of the book Revelations on the River, Healing a Nation, Healing Ourselves. And back with us, David Hogg, co-founder of March for Our Lives. Thank you all for coming to the Sunday show. Senator McMorrow, you've been pressing for gun control laws for years. What federal legislation would you like to see if any could get passed?
So first of all, I want to address everyday gun violence that has been rocking my community as well. In March, a 6-year-old girl was shot and killed by her father before he killed himself and turned a gun on her mother. A 15-year-old girl was shot and killed in a domestic abuse incident. On a Thanksgiving, a young man shot and killed his mother while driving home from Thanksgiving dinner. So we know that there's a direct correlation between domestic abuse and gun violence, and we need to see that passed on the federal level and state level as well, along with red flag laws, which we've introduced for years here in Michigan, safe storage laws, which would keep guns out of the hands, especially of minors in the home if they're done securely, among many more.
Congressman Cicilline, you and Senator Feinstein introduced an assault weapons ban in March of last year, 2021. What happened to that legislation?
Good morning. It's good to be with you. Look, we introduced the assault weapons ban. It's now up to 205 co-sponsors. We know that when the assault weapons ban was in effect, we saw a decline in mass shootings. And when it was allowed to expire, they have tripled, as the president mentioned the other day. These are weapons of war that don't belong in the communities that we live in. They were designed to kill as many people as quickly as possible. They are the weapon of choice in mass shootings. And so I hope one of the bills that we will take up will be the assault weapons ban. But we have dozens of good common sense bills in addition to that will significantly reduce gun violence in this country, from red flag laws to strengthening background checks, which we've already passed and sent to the Senate, closing the Charleston loophole to be sure that you can't buy a gun if your background check hasn't yet been completed. That's also in the Senate, so those should get passed immediately and sent to the president's desk. But we have bills to prohibit high-capacity magazines, safe storage, to raise the age of ownership for assault weapons. And I think you're going to see, I hope, the House move a number of those bills. But look, we have got to take action. We have a gun violence epidemic in this country. Guns are now the leading cause of death of American children. This is an outrage, and we have got to take action.
So, Matthew, both Senator McMorrow and Congressman Cicilline just laid out a litany of common sense gun safety ideas, legislation. And yet I'm sitting here wondering what's it going to take to get Republicans, particularly in the Senate, to do something. And should I take it as a sign of change that Senate Minority Leader McConnell has asked Senator John Cornyn to be at the talks that Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut is leading now to come up with something, anything, to address gun violence?
Well, I take it more as a sign of shame that Mitch McConnell actually is willing to take a step. How substantive it is, I have my serious doubts about Mitch McConnell and what he's done over the course of the last 2 decades on this issue. I mean, I think this gun issue, and obviously the facts have been laid out. Mallory's talked about it. David's talked about it. The other David's talked about it. In all of it, the facts are all on the side of gun reform. There's no question that if you line up the facts, they're all on the side of gun reform. But I think what this points to is a much bigger issue, which is that I believe our democracy is fundamentally broken. When a supermajority of people want gun reform, when a supermajority of people want Roe versus Wade to stay in place, when a supermajority of people want to make sure everybody has voting rights, when a supermajority of people want to treat everybody with dignity and respect and not do all the things that the Republicans do, none of that is happening. And so there's only a couple of processes in this way. Obviously, everybody has to keep speaking out. We have to keep doing all the things that we want to push and push and push on this. But I think this is ultimately going to be decided at the ballot box. And until we convince, and until the American public is convinced, and I think candidates have a responsibility in this, to know, to see that the idea that really this is a test of America. Mm-hmm. All of this is a test of our democracy. And if we can't do this in the aftermath of all of the incidents that have happened, then really we are a broken democracy. And that's what I worry about. And so November is the date that we can change this.
David, you've said many times since arriving on this set, this time has to be different. This time is different. I'm going to give you the last word because you have to go after this.
Yeah, so essentially, I think this time can be different, but what's going to make it different is us not what Mitch McConnell is waiting on. Honestly, everybody that's watching this needs to listen and understand. Mitch McConnell thinks he can wait us out. We need to do everything we can. Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, non-gun owners, even NRA members that support some action on gun safety. Mitch McConnell is planning on waiting us out. We need to get out on the streets and do everything we can and get it on the news constantly. And I need the president to do something as well. President Biden, please, every single day until the Congress acts and votes on this law, meet with a family that has been affected by gun violence and lost a child and highlight that child. Who were they? What was their life? The country needs to hear the stories of these kids and our future that is being stolen from us every single day. Every day. We need you to keep this in the news. We can't wait for a bigger story to come up because this is going to happen again. We need to act right now, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans that want to save our kids. We need to address how somebody gets a gun, but we also need to address why. We need to address the 2/3 of gun deaths that are suicides, and we need to fund programs that stop people from wanting to pick up a gun in the first place. Gun laws alone are not enough. I admit that. We need to act, but we need Americans to stand up together and save our kids. March with us June 11th.